All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to the video. My name is Natalie,
And my name is Prithvi.
and we are peer educators here at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. And today's presentation will be about redefining failure. So in other words, how we perceive our failures and how not to define ourselves by our mistakes. So starting off, what is failure? How do we define it? Failure is defined as an act or instance of failing or proving unsuccessful, or in simpler terms, a lack of success. So this is the dictionary definition of failure. But how do we, especially students, often define failure? Is it accurate, or do we tend to amplify our mistakes? Moving on to you.
All right. So what is perfectionism? So the dictionary meaning says that it needs to be or appear to be perfect. Sometimes healthy perfectionism is good, but then anything more than that is always quite harmful. So there's always a difference between high achiever and being a high perfectionist. Both types of people want to succeed. However, high achievers are motivated to do their best, while perfectionists are motivated by fear, paralyzed by the idea of failure. So sometimes perfectionism can diminish our self esteem, enjoyment of life, and also it can lead to immense stress and mental illness. So, for example, sometimes we may feel down on ourselves for not getting an A on an exam, even after trying hard for several days. And we consider ourselves as failure because we didn't get a perfect score. And another example is that not qualifying your dream job in the first attempt. So even after trying several times, we regard ourselves as failures. That's also an act of perfectionism. Next slide. So how to cope up with perfectionism? So there are certain techniques that you could follow to cope with perfectionism. So one such is focus on the positives. So wanting everything to be perfect is really bad as we tend to fixate on the negative parts of our work. So it's really important that we make a conscious effort to recognize the good. For everything you're not satisfied with, always challenge yourself to identify three things that you're really grateful for and you really appreciate. That's going to be helpful. Next, allowing yourself to make mistakes. It's important that we allow ourselves to make mistakes. At least then we'll see that it's not the end of the world when we fail. So, mistakes are always the opportunities for us to learn, grow, and do better. One way to practice is always take up a new hobby that you're not good at on the first try and then try getting better at it instead of focusing on how to be perfect at it. So, this really helps in enjoying the activity and learning how to get better. Next one, set more reasonable goals. So perfectionists always tend to set unrealistic goals. So because of the impossible standards, so it's always important to break that unrealistic goals into small realistic chunks of goals. So that will actually help in achieving perfectionism and also it'll help you get better. So it's always important to have more achievable and smart goals rather than having unrealistic ones. So we'll always feel less stressed and more confident in our ability to reach our goals when they are realistic and challenging in a healthy way. Next, learn to receive criticism. So constructive criticism always help us learn and grow. So it's always important to try and recognize and normalize that healthy criticism can be always helpful and is normal because it can let us grow and do better. Next, lower the pressure you put on ourselves. Do you know who is that person who always pressurizes you the most? That's yourself. That happens with me as well. So it's always important and necessary to be kind to yourself and practice self acceptance by lowering unrealistic standards that you set on yourself. If you're still motivated and doing your best, you're doing just fine. There's no such thing as perfect. We can always be proud of whatever we are doing. Next, focus on meaning over perfection. So it's always mandate to try to shift your focus on finding something meaningful in what you do rather than just trying to do it perfectly. it'll always bring us joy and purpose. If that thing, whatever you take it, helps you be happy and be mindful, then it doesn't matter if it's not done perfectly. There's more fulfillment in dream in finding the meaning along the way. So all these things doesn't help, that I would really recommend you to go to a therapist. So there is something called cognitive behavioral therapy. So in particular, it will help people recognize. It'll always help people struggling with perfectionism reframe their thoughts. So I would recommend that if all these things doesn't work. So moving on to you, Nate.
All right, so what doesn't fix our past failures? So there's 4 things I have listed here that honestly can lead to regression and lack of progress. So the first thing is overthinking. So this would be thinking about past mistakes and what could have been instead of focusing on the now. The next thing would be punishing ourselves. And this includes negative self-talk, withdrawing from others, refusing to ask for help, etc. We often find ourselves, telling ourselves that we're not good enough, or we'll isolate from our friends, not have fun because we did poorly on a project or at work, or like whatever it is. It's not good for us to do that though. The third thing is comparing ourselves to others. So for example, thinking we're not good enough because others got a higher grade, or maybe someone at your job is doing better and got a promotion. It's not good to compare ourselves to others. And then the last thing is pessimism, which is simply just saying, I will never succeed. And I think everyone knows that that is obviously never, it never leads to any good things. So yeah, those are the 4 things that do not fix our past failures or help us grow at all. So to end the presentation, I like to say just a key takeaway for it. Unfortunately, we can't always go back and undo our mistakes, but we can change how we perceive those mistakes, and we can grow from them. So try replacing the word failure with learning opportunity. So anytime you do poorly on something, or you think you've done poorly on something, or you miss the mark, don't look at it as like, I'm a failure. Like, look at it as this is an opportunity to learn and get better. So that was our presentation for today. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm Natalie, and this is
I'm Prithvi.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Have a great rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.